So please welcome Kate Eckman to the show. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, you're so welcome. I have thoroughly enjoyed going down what I call a rabbit hole, but reading your book, understanding how my life parallels yours and how it made me reflect on my life. I think I'm like 10 years older than you. And I look at, I was born in like late 60s. You were born in the 70s. It's not that much of a difference. But I grew up swimming on swim team. And I understand that. And now I know you haven't raised children, but I think, I look at it the way, like when you had that experience as a young 4-year-old, I went back to my children and what I have programmed their limiting beliefs. Because as much as you try not to, and as present, as intentional as I've been parenting, we all do it, right? We all have our beliefs and that limit our lives to understanding the potential that we have. But I want you to start because your life is so fascinating. And when you put it in a book, that's one thing is, I look at it too, as I just admire someone that spends the time and really puts their heart, soul, sweat, their time into a book. And one day I know that I want to, because it's calling me. But when it calls you and you do it and it makes a difference, and it does make a difference. And when you have these like 10 steps to, it's called the Full Spirit Workbook, but workout. But let me get back to you. Let's go start with when you were raised and how you were in swim team and what you really learned at 4 years old. Because I feel like people have to realize as parents and what the situations they put their kids in, what it does. And it doesn't even seem like as a parent, you're doing that, but it'll catapult into this place where you just can't imagine when you're a parent. So start wherever you want to.
Yeah. And thank you for that. And, Ashley's talking about, it's step 3 in the book. And I share my experience of being this little 4-year-old at the swim club in Cincinnati, Ohio, and my mom enrolling me in swim lessons. I hated it. And, overhearing the swim instructor. And again, I just think of myself, this little child, 4 years old, but having the wherewithal to, and that's the curious, and I went on to be a news reporter and journalist, just a very curious kid, never missed anything, was always paying attention, and overhearing him saying to my mother something to the effect of, I'm not a very good swimmer. And me internalizing that in the moment and thinking, oh my gosh, I better get it together. My parents, they're so athletic. I don't want them to have a kid who's a bad athlete and a bad swimmer. And apparently, you can't just chill and show up as a 4-year-old and splash around in the pool. You gotta be the best. You gotta compete. You gotta perform. You gotta impress strangers, apparently. But more importantly, I just thought, I want my mom and dad to be proud of me. And I don't know where that comes from or how that gets ingrained in all of us. I think we all experience that. We all want mom and dad to be proud of us and love us. And I internalize that as it's not enough that I'm a child of God. I'm here. I always just got this messaging from culture that I needed to be something or do something to get love. I had to be the best swimmer. I had to get the best grades. As a woman, you got to do it all, and you better look really good while you're doing it. And I've seen this messaging. It's interesting. I haven't seen it yet, but the Barbie movie. And for me, and it's like, we both have that coloring. We're fair skin, light-eyed blondes. And so I haven't seen, there hasn't been a white blonde, this huge character recently. It's been more diverse. And so but that's her whole thing too. She's on this journey of self-discovery, which is what my book's all about. And it's this notion of, it's really hard to win as a woman because you're always threatening someone, upsetting someone, you have to be great, but then don't be too great because you're going to intimidate men and you're not going to have a man, and you're going to make women envious and jealous, and you make men jealous too. So without going on and on, we're kind of set up for failure in many ways as young girls and women, but that's a very victim mentality. I choose to be the victor and think I'm going to have it all and be it all and do it all, whatever that means for me, and not worry about who I'm pissing off, and knowing I don't have to do anything to be worthy or valuable of love. It's just enough to be here. And certainly if you have high aspirations and goals, do them, but do them for yourself, not to get love from someone, not to look cool to someone, not to get the external validation, but do it hopefully for a greater purpose and meaning in your life, which is what I've done with this book. Because listen, it is not easy to, like you said, the blood, sweat, tears, put it all out there. I have a speaking event coming up, and I looked in the mirror this morning. I'm just returning from Hawaii with my family and feeling happy and relaxed and thinking, wow, that fills me up way more than any work achievement that I've had. Just, laughing and being silly with my niece and nephew, and having the speaking event coming up and thinking like, gosh, I don't love it, but I do it because it's serving a higher purpose. And for me, I've taken on the life assignment of being a suicide prevention awareness activist after losing 2 loved ones to suicide. And so I know I'm really going all over the place here with this answer, because there is so much to say, but I'm going to land the plane here and just say, I think it's so important to really get clear on who we are, what we really want, and hopefully it has a greater purpose, because that keeps you going even when it's scary, or you have moments of self-doubt, or you think, I don't really want to do this, or who cares?
Right. What just came to me was when I was in my childhood was, we had fun. We were on swim team and did all the sports, and was on drill team and was the captains of the sports, and, did all the leadership roles. And then, had signed up for college because that's what everyone did. Had no clue of, I didn't take the SAT. I don't even know how I got in, went to Washington State University. Didn't have a clue, changed my major, moved to San Diego, went to San Diego State. So I was just floating. And so why I'm saying that is where I am now at 54, after having raised my children, 14 and 17, we're on the tail end of childhood. I realize my passion now, why I teach children your book, basically. I teach these teenagers I pull their passion out to realize they are these unlimited, these beings of pure light and love, and letting them see that, and what they've gone through within the last 3 years, especially these teenagers, living their life. And most of, that's a big chunk of a childhood when you look at, from 2020 to 2023, 24. I mean, that was like my daughter's high school career. Like that, you look back at our high school and it was just going to the football games and swim meets and, all the things. That there was not the social media and all these things. But when you realize that things in your life are all put in these perfect order, everything's in perfect order, and to come back and look at it from that higher perspective, and look at it like you do. And I love how you even talk about, like, after that 4-year-old little girl heard those words, she's not a good swimmer, she's not good enough. And it just turned it. I believe that was like divinely orchestrated. That was your mother chose that in a soul family before you came and said, okay, I'm going to strike this chord in you, Kate, and it's going to project this life for you, that you're going to show you're going to see who you truly are, and how you can compete and break all the records and do the journalism and the TV and all the modeling and all that. But where would you go after me saying that?
Yeah. And I'm getting a little emotional because, people ask, how this book came about. And and part of the answer is after losing the loved ones to suicide, 2014, 2015, going on my own, dark night of the soul journey after that, from all the trauma and the pain and the heartache and the tragedy and shock. And then, going back to school, studying whole person coaching techniques at Columbia, and the neuroscience and positive psychology, and putting this system and book together, and the coaching and training. But really, the full spirit workout started right there at age 4 at the swim club, unbeknownst to me at the time. And going on to, break every record at that swim club, except for 2 or 3, and being the state and national champion swimmer, and going off to Penn State on a swimming scholarship, and achieving all these things. But at what cost? I was filled with anxiety and insecurity, and had this obsession with performance and perfectionism, which led me to great success on the outside in many things, but at what cost? And I think we all do that to ourselves so many times, to get the thing or to have the life that we think we want, or that's going to impress other people. And it just got to the point where I was exhausted and I couldn't run or hide from it anymore in the face of everything looking, I looked great from the outside. I'm a presenter. I had the polished presentation down. But when your life gets turned upside down with tragedy, in my case, and you have to really look at yourself, you start to see, what am I doing all this for? And who am I doing it for? And it's grateful. And so I think too, I don't want people to have to go through rock bottom or have to have some, extraordinary tragedy, wake them up to the truth of who they are and what they really want out of life and what really gives meaning and value and fulfillment. But I think it's just important to ask ourselves, why am I doing this thing? So it's like, okay, I want to write I have so many people, you write a book, everyone's like, I want to write a book. And I think, great. Why do you want to write a book? And what I hear 9 times out of 10, well, it'll help my business, credibility, authority. It's those externals. And I think, okay. And I think of the challenge that it is to really write a good book, not have the ghostwriter and not, to do it yourself. And I'm a journalist, so I that's my thing. But I think so many people, marriage and kids, another perfect example. Oh, great. Why do you want to get married? And I think a lot of people, it's like, well, that's what you do, because we're all handed this script at birth. And men, the part of that script is you don't cry, you don't show emotion. Women is you better freaking look pretty and thin and pretend to have it all together at least. So I think a lot of people have ended up in lives that they don't even want, or doesn't even make them happy, because it hasn't even occurred to them that they can choose something and go off script, if you will, even if it's lonely, even if you feel like an alien at times. I certainly have with my choices, but then your life is yours. And whether you know it or not, or whether people express it to you or not, you are an inspiration. I've had friends who have the picture perfect family, the marriage, the kids, the hot husband, the money, the this, that will cry to me and say, I'm so sorry how I've treated you recently. I'm so envious of your life. And I'm sitting here thinking like, like single and alone and doing it all on my own and having the struggles and all of this stuff. But they're just like, you're free. You have chosen a life that's authentic to you. And so that's what I just invite everybody to open themselves up to.
Yes. So I didn't get married till I was 36, had Paige when I was 37 and Presley when I was 40. And I want to go back to there's a few parallels that made me have light bulb moments when I was reading your book. So you talk about, it's stretching your comfort zone. I'm all about that. And I do that with my students, and I teach my children that they're pageant girls and they are on the rowing team. Like there's two complete separate spectrums of life. Like when you're on a team on a boat, you're sweating every morning and they're learning that discipline like you did at swim team, getting up, they have to be out on the water when it's freezing and then when it's dark in the fall and at night. So they're learning that, but they also are pageant girls and they did that since they were 8, but they learn just like what you say, like, don't ever, they know that they're not always going to win. There's so many values and things that they've learned through their pageant journey. It's like, okay, I didn't win. Why? Like, what do I need to improve on? It's not about winning. It's about growing and learning and expanding and seeing where, what can I do better? Right. But going back to when you were in LA and you had your house and you had a boyfriend that lived in Chicago. So that's a stretch and you were stretching yourself. And I have the same experience. I opened a day spa with nothing. I had no clue. I probably had a facial in my life twice. It was out of just like, I need to do something on my own. And I just do it with no money. I bought a house. I'm just saying this so you understand why I love the story so much. I bought a house with no money down, like 3 months after I bought the spa with nothing, with a credit card. That was when you could buy houses. I think yours was in 2006. Mine was, it was before that, but pretty close. And those days where you could buy houses with nothing. And I did it. But the minute I knew that I did that, I had this day spa with so much debt. But 3 years later, I rented that house out, the peak of the market, tripled my my money on that house, took that money and paid off everything. And I knew God provided. That is where my belief in that, in when everyone says like they're down and out and I lost a job and I don't have the money, I'm probably going to go bankrupt or whatever they're going to say, like you're always provided for, always. Right, Kate? Are you breathing heavy?
Yeah, 100%. And as you're talking, every single time I have taken a risk, and I have done the things where it's, even moved to LA with no job, with no money, with nothing, my parents were kind enough to get me some furniture from IKEA to start off. And every single time I've taken a risk, which I do all the time, because I refuse to be in a job, relationship, party situation where I am mistreated, and you try to work it out. But if that's the culture and toxicity, especially at this point in my life, I'm like, I've worked too hard, I'm too old to be dealing with any of this. But I think every time that we take a risk, when it's scary, when we don't even know how the bills are going to get paid, I swear the universe and God, whatever you believe in, is up there winking, and it's just like, we're going to take care of her. And if that's your belief system, that you're going to be taken care of, the people show up, the opportunities show up. For me, it's a lot of times at the 11th hour. It's not quite midnight, but it's 11:58, and the money and the opportunity and the thing comes in way better than I could have imagined. Even just now, a house that I bought during COVID and left my beloved New York City and cried, and it was devastating. And it was an investment property, and I just turned around and just made a lot of money on it. I just sold it a couple of weeks ago. And I won't bore everybody with the details around it. But again, it was one of those things where the real estate agent was just like, this is unprecedented, even in this market, that you got this for that. And she's like, that's the magic of Kate. And I think that's the magic of believing in a higher power. That's the magic of the full spirit workout and doing this work. Things like this just happen to me now, where I'm not shocked. It's just like, of course this happens, because I put in the work, I've spent the time, energy, money doing it. And as I like to say, when you do the work, it works, it's working. And that's why it can be scary at first. You might have something, I have something better to do. There's certainly days I don't feel like getting up and going to the gym or doing these inner exercises, but the results are so worth it. And that's what keeps me going.
Oh, for sure. Well, when I look at my inner work, and I've always been a person of like a seeker and done all my been on a spiritual journey since I can remember. And I think when I look back, even in high school, but people will remind me, remember you used to give me those affirmations? And I'm like, I did. So I don't remember that, but I know that I've always had that. But I've always had this spiritual workout every day. That's like a value, one of the highest values on my list. And so, and also my physical body so I'm very disciplined, but it's just because I know what it does. And I know when people say, oh, Ashley, you're so lucky. How did you sell that house? And you didn't even have the money. And how did you open that spot? You're so lucky. I'm like, no, it's not luck. It is such the trust and the surrender that I know you talk about, that and I know you talk about too, that I agree with confidence when is trust, like that. I believe those two words so go hand in hand, because when you trust and and you have that belief that in the 11th hour that you will be provided for, and not take that 1 ounce of doubt, and just but be aware of those little thoughts that come in, that arise, because we have done the work and are conscious of those thoughts, and to switch those. But when you have that spiritual workout that you so beautifully write in this book, it's those moments that you say, yes, I know why that house sold for the top dollar. And I know why, because I'm supposed to be in Laguna Beach and it's all perfect. Everything is, it's all coming together. It's the breadcrumbs along the way.
Yeah. And I think just declaring and I've been at this for a while. So it's been years in the making, and then years of doing these practices where, everyone talks about their goals. They want this, they want that, the shiny objects, the money, the hot partner, all of it. And I get it. I want all that stuff too. I love all that stuff. But it's not about those goals. And it's like, again, everyone's trying to strive and force and hustle and grind and control and manipulate. And that exhaustion, right? Of do, where if you take the counterintuitive approach, which I've adopted and written about here, and it's more about stillness, and it's more about getting steady on the inside and working our attitudinal muscles, the mental, emotional, and spiritual muscles, and spending the time to become the person who can actually achieve these goals, then you get the phone calls, you get the emails, you meet the people, the opportunities. Where now I'm on vacation and I'm getting a phone call from some guy who saw me speak 4 months ago. And, oh, so-and-so is looking for this MC or presenter or speaker for this. I'm going to connect you. He just did the job for me. I wasn't here like, and yes, you need to put yourself out there. But I think when you get to a certain point and you've been doing the work, you can step back a little bit. And when I'm having fun, when I'm on vacation, you're attracting, because you just become more magnetic to all the things that you desire. So it is about really fine tuning your instrument on the inside before you can play it for the world. And that's why some people will be like, oh, you're lucky, Ashley, or, oh, well, it's because of how you look or where you went to school. And those things certainly can play a role. However, a lot of it is you've done the work, you've taken your, grip off the reins or off the wheel, so to speak, hold on loosely, as the 38 Special song says, and you've just, surrendered and relaxed into, I get to have this, I get to do this. Life just feels a lot better. And this is available to everyone. People just don't think. They think it's like, no, I have to come from this family. I have to go to this school. I have to look this way, or it's not going to happen for me. And I think even Oprah Winfrey debunked that myth. She comes from the worst possible place, as she's openly spoken about, and was able to achieve such success. So it really is available to everybody. These principles, these belief systems, as I like to say, the higher power is always at work, orchestrating all of these things behind the scenes. We are given, these downloads like a computer file into our minds, into our hearts all the time. It's just, we aren't practiced at listening. We're listening to the caca of the world. We're listening to the news. We're listening to all the people who tell us why we can't have it. And rather than blocking that out and listening to the truth and that divine spirit and making, deliberate, conscious choices from that belief system, we sometimes get caught up in all the other stuff. And I say that because I've been that person and lived in fear and the self-doubt. And it's so nice to look at yourself in the mirror now. And that's a good thing about getting older, right? Where it's just like, wow, I made it so hard for myself, but that's all we knew, because that was the culture.
Right. Yeah, when you talk about the, what was it? Strengthen your core confidence. That's what reminds me of that. The trust, right? Like keeping that faith, like understanding when people say, why is this always working for you? It's because of that inner strength, that core. I mean, you talk about that as in reference to like our fitness, because it's a workout and you're the swimmer, but it is core fitness. It is that, that strength, that for me, it's unwavering. And yes, as we get older, it's like amazing, like, because I don't watch the news. I live in this meditation and let's go to that. Let's talk about meditation, because that's part of your book and your practice. And you even, you write for Insight Timer.
I do courses for Insight Timer. Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, and people know about guided meditation. I'm a student of transcendental meditation, which is where you have a mantra, and a way I describe transcendental meditation is even guided meditation. Any meditation is beneficial. A lot of meditation, think of it as you're, on a boat on the ocean. So that's lovely and meditative. Transcendental, you're like a scuba diver. You're at the bottom of the ocean where all the really colorful fish and sea life is. And that's where you can go deeper into it and really make yourself that vessel for those divine downloads. And instead of being frantic and, Ashley, this is happening, what should I do? I used to be there. It's getting quiet and listening. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Why don't you reach out to Ashley and ask if she'd like to collaborate on this project? You can do this. Why don't you present her with that? Oh, you know what? You should email so-and-so. You get all the answers. It is really extraordinary, as you know. And if that isn't your jam, there's two other ways to be in a meditative state. One is a walking meditation, and give yourself prompts. I have them all in the book, but something I think that will really help you get clear about who you are, what you really want, is to go on a walk. I suggest distraction-free, turn your headphones off and just, be in nature and ask yourself, if I could do anything regardless of money, geography, what other people think, regardless of my fears. What would I do? What do I really want? And then listen, and don't edit or judge, but let whatever wants to come in, come in. And I think it'll surprise you, because for me, the first time I did it, what came in was what I said I didn't want. So that I had to get curious. I'm like, what's happening there? So spend some time doing that. And then my favorite practice I cultivated during COVID was what I call my 5 minutes a day sit and stare practice. I do it now for at least an hour a day. And that's why I spend less time, frantically working on the computer. I can do in an hour or two what would take, maybe 8 hours, because I've gotten so clear minded and gotten that inspirational guidance by being quiet.
Right.
But just sit and stare out the window, check in with yourself as if you're a small child and ask, how are you doing? What do you need? What's working? What isn't? And then really become practiced at listening to that inner voice that tells you. And I think a lot of times we even have been somewhat practiced at listening, but we might hear, it's time to end this relationship. And it's like, whoa, we get that clear, but it's like, well, that's going to upset some people. That's going to be really challenging. I'm going to have to come up with extra money to make that happen. And so we don't take action on that, but it'll start as a whisper and it'll get louder and louder. Or maybe, I've heard a voice where it'll say, this was the last time you're going. Like when I used to travel to Europe for work, I heard, and it was a bummer, but I heard, this is your last work trip to Europe for this company. I could feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get scared or reject those voices or that information anymore. I think, okay, thank you, universe. What's next? Show me. And even recently, I have been on such a state of purging, which I highly recommend. And even if you haven't moved in a while, you have no plans on moving, please start purging stuff out of your home and create the space. Maybe purge some people out. And I say that with love. We don't need to tell them. You don't need to tell them. Lovingly purge some people. Maybe you've outgrown them. Maybe you feel jealousy from them instead of support. Whatever it is, maybe it's some family members. The season of purge, and that's where I'm in. Or even not like, well, I better do this because I don't have anything else this week, so let me take this job or work with these people. And my body will be like, I don't want to do that. But sometimes we take it on anyway. So to just say no to more things and more people and have that wide open space to be completely surprised and delighted, and being okay with not knowing what you're doing tomorrow or next week or next month. And I know I can hear people like, well, I have bills to pay, and I have bills to pay too. But maybe, you sell some things. So it's like, all right, that buys me a month. You purge and you sell, that buys me a month to put a plan together. Everyone's situation is different, and I have compassion and respect for all of it. I just know for me, I'm no longer scared when I have more free time. I just think, wow. Or if nothing, I'm like, wow, I have time to actually play and enjoy my life. What a concept. Even for me, I only went to Hawaii for 4 days, and it was like, this is 4 days. Oh my gosh. And just how good I felt. I think, why do you not do this more often? And if I answer myself, and yes, there's financial implications. And yes, I think a lot of it is fear, or it's the judgment. You even get judged because you hear, what do you hear? Especially it's just like, people are so proud that they work 24/7 and don't take a vacation. I'm like, ugh. For me, I'm just like, I'm going to travel more and own it and post about it. And I swear, since I posted yesterday about taking this last minute trip to Hawaii with my brother and his family, and essentially inviting myself, but they were all like,
yeah, I read that.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. So cute.
Thank you so much. Do you know how many people it's touched my heart so much, and their friends, people I've known from high school or college, that have said to me, I woke up to so many text messages and things. Let's plan a trip. Let's go. And, we all talk about it, but I think now my post, we're actually going to do it. Be like, great. When do you want to go? Where are we going? And just book it book it and then have it. Because we don't even see our loved ones as enough, or like the best friend from college we haven't seen forever, and everyone's busy with their kids and jobs and families. I get it. But for me, just even those 4 days in Hawaii, what it did for me, there's no price tag you can put on that. It's like the MasterCard commercial, it's priceless. And I'm like, I'm going to do more of this. You know what? I'm going to work less, work smarter, and take more trips and spend more time with loved ones, because that's what we're here to do, is connect and to play and have fun and love. And I think we're all guilty of not doing that enough.
Right. we took a trip a couple of weeks ago to Italy. And last year we went to Paris. First time I'd been there with my family when I was in my 20s, but Richard hadn't never been to Europe. And the year before we were thinking, the girls are at the age now, it's probably time, let's do that. So we went on this amazing trip to Paris and had those memories, even if the girls are like another museum, like, it's like, you'll appreciate this one day.
Yes, they will.
Maybe not now when we're walking through the Louvre and you're like, where's the Mona Lisa? And let's get out of here. And the Mona Lisa is this tiny little thing behind this plastic shield. But it's those memories. And then we booked it right when we got home. We're like, let's do Italy. And, we have one more year of Paige being in high school. And we're like, let's just do it before we get to that place where they're busy in college and who knows what. But what happened, Richard, what we were talking the other day is like, he either read it or heard it, but he said this guy was asked to show pictures of his family from his phone. And he realized all the memories that he had in his phone were only from trips, from the memories of their travel. And he's like, we're doing something wrong. We need to travel more. Those are our memories, right? And when I look back at those pictures, it could make me cry, but those are the memories that I will cherish for the rest of my life. And it's those moments, that you get and you don't say no to book it. You'll never regret that. It's that precious time, right?
Yeah. And then you come back and you're more productive, you're performing at a higher level, you're more creative, you're more fulfilled and joyful. And so it'll be reflected in your work and in turn, like the money that you make. And you're right. I think of my screensaver on my computer, on my phone. It's from Portugal and trips that I've taken. And I travel the world solo a lot, which is so liberating. But this trip was extra special. And to be with my niece and nephew, bond with my brother and sister-in-law, right. But especially the kids and these memories that you have forever. And as you know, it's in your soul. And unfortunately, these experiences and memories and our education, it's one of the few things left in the world that can't be taken from us. Any of your personal belongings you can lose, can be like, and it doesn't mean anything. I'm surrounded by nice things in my home. I love nice things, but these things really don't mean anything. But that, laughing in the back seat, being car sick on the road to Hana in Hawaii and laughing with my niece and nephew and all of the silly things that we said and did and the trips and snorkeling, that's in my soul. That keeps me going. And right. Where I think of a career achievement and I think, okay, that's nice, and that's the thing about all these things that we want, the material possessions and the achievements, they make us happy for, 15 minutes. And then it's on to the next thing, the next thing, and the next thing. And so whoever is hearing this, hopefully you're inspired to take a trip, even if you go away for the day by yourself somewhere. And I just know, and it's science, that these trips reset your nervous system. It resets. I came back and I feel like a different person. Mm-hmm. And it just and because it's that connecting with yourself, with the environment, with beauty, with nature, with adventure, with family members, with friends. And nobody can ever take that from you.
No, so true. And just having children of my own in that experience has just been like, there's no price on that.
Yeah. I just see their faces. I just even got an image of my nephew. It's like, he was so lit up. There was even a moment in the car and we were just driving along and he said, I am so happy. And to see his face and to watch the waves come in and him, stick out his arms and ride the waves in the shore and just pure joy. And even for me, I wasn't riding the waves, but to just experience his joy and see his face, which, as a parent more than anyone, especially when, we see our kids oftentimes not enjoy. It's right. Very challenging being a parent. And so to see that, and it wasn't from, all these kids always on their devices and he loves his gaming, but not on his device, just in nature and how the waves lit him up more than any stupid device or game or phone. That right. was really meaningful to me.
And you talk about the present moment a lot too. And I am so about the present moment. And I teach that to my girls and have taught that. And I think part of traveling, it's flashed a memory. We were on the Amalfi Coast and I know you love Lake Como and that's on our next list. I know that's one of your favorite spots, but we were on the Amalfi Coast and we were driving And I kept saying, embrace, like, we're in this moment, girls, look out the window. Oh my gosh, do you realize where we are? And it was constant, like being in the moment. But when you're on a trip like that, and you're savoring those days, right? Like if you're going to Hawaii for 4 days, you're going to be in the moment. But I'm like, the present moment, and knowing that there's all we have are the memories, right? That we're talking about. And there's not even tomorrow. It's right now. But that is so important. Explain how important that is to you, because you do speak of that a lot.
Yeah. And presence is, I did research for my thesis at Columbia about the 5 P's of confidence. And the first one is presence. And it's bringing your presence. That's the full spirit, bringing your full spirit to everything you do and everyone you meet, showing up like you mean it. Hello. Like so many people show up like, I don't know why I'm not getting this job or this thing. I'm like, I'll tell you why, it's like your energy. It's like, hello, people just, they don't even think of that. It's like, well, my resume, I'm like, your resume may say this, your energy says something totally different, and that you're not even aware of it. And so presence is, one of my 5 P's of confidence, where it's also being so present. And when you're present, you're more powerful, you're more confident, because you're all there and you're not future tripping, you're not stressed out about the past. And because people are so rarely all there and so present, because I am so repulsed every time I go out to dinner and everyone's just on their phone. And it's like,
you and me both.
Hello. And I've had, some younger folks, been out to eat with them. And I had a gentleman say to me, wow, you haven't been on your phone once at this dinner. And I think, why would I be on my phone? I'm having it was an in-depth conversation like you and I are having now. There's nothing is on my phone is more important than connecting with you here right now. And that's why I love doing these interviews, and I love doing live television, because you got to be all there. And that's part of it. Like people who are nervous, who don't do TV, it's just like, show up, do your best, have fun, then it is a success. And when you're present and you're just in the moment and not thinking about anything else, you're going to have a much better presentation. So I think, again, we've all heard this a million times, but putting the devices down and just taking in your environment, especially when you're in a beautiful place, and just having those moments of reflection and asking yourself these questions, or reading about them in a book like mine, and taking the time to first connect with yourself. And that's what's so liberating about being on vacation, is just, even we were out on the boat one day, forgot my phone. And I'm like, well, I don't need my phone at first it's that panic, like my phone. And then I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody, and it's like, my brother can take the picture, but who even cares about the picture? I think too, you see so many people just trying to get the picture for Instagram, rather than just being fully immersed in the experience of it, that your phone isn't going to adequately capture anyway.
Right. Let's continue down the P's. And I'm a P person because my girls' names start with P. So I was like,
I love that.
Okay. So the presence, and then patience.
Oh, patience. And that's one, patience, confidence stems from the words to trust, to do something with trust. So like that's an inside job. Patience stems from the words to suffer. So I get it. We're suffering while we're waiting for the thing that we want. But I think if we can, again, loosen our grip on the wheel and just, do all the work, and then step back and not be so attached to the outcome or things happening in a certain way on our timeline, go about your life, do your thing, have fun, go to Pilates, go on the walk, meet up with a friend, then things can get orchestrated behind the scenes. And I think if you step back sometimes and you are really honest with yourself, and you think, gosh, if I would have gotten that thing when I really wanted it, for me, even this book deal, it took a few months, and I was able to complete my master's degree and to do all of these things and have more experiences, all of which went into the book and made it so much better. You see all this stuff after the fact, but in the moment, you're just like, what the hell? And you're crying, and you're just like, why am I getting rejected, or why is this happening? And then you think, wow, this was so perfect because of this. And I think so many times when we look back and think, or even when that person comes back into your life and you think, gosh, I'm so over it now. It's like, that's why they came back, because the emotional charge is gone and lifted. So now you're able to meet this person as a different person, for instance. So being patient there, and not being so attached to it. And then Purpose is the next P, having a purpose greater than ourselves. And, I have so many talented friends and, we're all filled with self-doubt from one time or another. And I like to say to them, the days you can't show up for you, show up for the person who doesn't have your privilege in life or doesn't have the opportunity. And you owe it to yourself. My friend who's the photographer, I said, this isn't about you. You have this extraordinary talent. You're going to show up for the people who are going to benefit from your gift. And then we have preparation, that's just putting in the work. I had a nightmare I woke up this morning, what do you have anxiety about? Because I was doing something in the dream and I think I was taking a test and I'm like, I don't know any of the answers on this test. I'm like, and then in the dream, I'm kind of like, why wouldn't you study? It was so embarrassing that I knew nothing on the test. That's what it was.
I get those too. I have those dreams.
So it's just being prepared, which I have something coming up. So, and because then when you show up for the speech or whatever you're doing, you just get, again, to be present and in the moment and just let it rip because you've done you see it with athletes, you've done all the work. Now you can just be in the joy of the performance or the game or whatever it is, the test. And then, and then practice, putting in the reps. We all know that we have to show up and do that. And then I came up with 2 bonus P's after the fact. And the first is pause. And that's taking a moment before you respond to the upsetting text or email and say something that could ruin the relationship forever. It's pausing before you tell the jerk that they're really being a jerk, for instance. And then the next one is person. And my speaking coach, Eduardo, would always say that to me because, again, I have that obsession with performance and perfectionism. And he said something to me that's so liberating and freeing. And even in these interviews too, where it's just be a person. So I think with everyone, he's like, just be a freaking person. He's a spicy Cuban man who I love.
Oh, cute.
But when you can just show up and just be a person rather than I have to be perfect. I have to say it perfectly, look perfectly. I have to just be a person because people fall in love with your humanity and your authenticity and your realness and your messiness. And that's where vulnerability really comes in and is a superpower. And not just for you, but then you get to be that example to other people because so many people are struggling with insecurity and not feeling enough. And when you're able to just kind of call yourself out and just show up and be a person, it really is freeing to other people as well.
Oh, so much. I just got done with my pageant whirlwind tour of both girls, one in Georgia, and then the other one gave away her crown because she won last year in Phoenix. So I just got home 2 days ago. But when I'm reading these P's, every single P is for pageant because, everything that you're just saying, it's like patient, the presence, be there in the moment. The patience, it might not be your turn to win, but no, there's a bigger plan. Are you, just to come, but why are you doing it? They always have those answers, questions in interview. Why do you want to win? You got to know your why. And then the practice. So today I set out a piece of paper for them. This is the checklist that needs to be done today. Because we're going to another pageant, a national pageant in November. And we always spend 10 days in Orlando, have Thanksgiving for probably the last 8 years.
Oh my gosh.
So they only know really Thanksgiving at a banquet, at a pageant, but they wouldn't want it any other way. And Richard and I see the benefits of it. So we promote, we are there and love it. And it's a great family experience. But when you think of in preparation and all those P's, when I realize gosh, those girls are really getting prepared for life. We're not always going to win, but the ones that do come prepared, they practiced. You talk a lot about Tom Brady, he's the best for a reason. It's not because he's just he woke up in the morning and went and played football. He has 1 million coaches and practices more than anyone else. Right?
Yes, because he's the best, not the worst. I think there's this notion too, where people that don't want to get a coach or go to therapy or do this inner work, well, I'm fine. And, Tom, for instance, these people who are exceptional at what they do, you hear these actors and go through extraordinary measures to play one role for one film. And so that the preparation, the practice, but then look at the result. And then it's not even just about winning the Oscar. It's people like you and I going to the film and being deeply moved. And if you make me cry or laugh or just that experiencing that full spectrum of human emotions, wow, you've done your job and thank you. And that's why they do it. And yeah, with Tom, it's trains harder than anybody, not because he's the worst, but the best. And that's what I admire about so many of these athletes, or that are able to say, I have some bad habits to clean up. And so I'm going to go to the local park at 4 a.m. and shoot free throws for 3 hours because I missed the shot in the championship game and we lost. And so I think just what we can learn from failure, and if you allow it to make you better and not be so obsessed with everything has to be a win, because you may lose the game, but you won in terms of you had your best performance, or you were there for a teammate, or you inspired somebody in some way. And I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to just have it all together at all the times. Like mothers, I don't even know how you do it. Cause I think, okay, yeah, I would love to do the mom thing, but then I'm like, how do you all like do work and business or brush your hair? If you're a mother, you're a modern day superhero. And I bow down to you and honor you. I have friends. I'm like, I had a friend with a 1-year-old show up at dinner once and she looked extraordinary. I'm like, how did you do this?
Right.
So, I think this is just a moment to let yourself off the hook, embrace your humanity a bit more, and redefine success. Because I've had all the fancy shiny things. I'm like, I should feel successful, and on the inside, I was miserable. And I think a lot of people are like that. So success to me is spending the afternoon with my niece and nephew at the beach, laughing and not being on my phone, and not, even recently someone was talking to me I could hear her stress and fear with the writer's strike and everything in LA. And like, what are you doing for work and this and that? And, I'm like, you know what? I'm not thinking about work right now. I'm taking time off. And then people are like,
right.
but for me, it just felt so good to say, like, I'm not thinking about work this week. I don't care.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was listening to you. I was going to ask you what your definition of success was, because it's so true. People, I think we're so blinded by Instagram or whatever. It's like you look at those things and you're always comparing. Well, but it's just human nature. We're a person, right? So we look at it as like, are we doing that? And I'm always, with my students and the kids that have only known social media, it's like, I haven't had a Paige when she was born, she's 17. We didn't have iPhones. I don't have a picture of her on my phone. So when I realized their entire life has been technology override, right? Like, and it's just, it's so important to teach these tools. I would love this book to be in the school. Like, I think this is more important than algebra.
Yeah,
I
me
really
too.
do. There's something in me that one day I see either like a retreat. If you can't get into the schools, I'm like, that's really one of my visions. And to understand, like, even just teaching kids how to meditate. I mean, I'm teaching these 8-year-olds like stillness and go to bed before, teaching that, getting that as a muscle in their life. The affirmations that I love in your book that are so beautiful, and the thoughts that we think and the words that we speak, all these little things that if they cultivated that in their life young, your life in your 20s wouldn't be like me floating around trying to figure out what, right, like figuring out my purpose, what I'm passionate about. It all is evolving, and I understand your passions can change and all that, but to understand that you do have a purpose and you do have a passion, and you are seeking and you are saying yes to things, and you are listening to your inspired thought, and you're taking action, regardless if it's the right thing or not. It is right, because everything's perfect. It'll just veer you to the other way, but it's so important to me. And that's why I love you so much, because you have the same, that when I'm reading your book, I'm like, I feel like everything in there just is such a, it's just a reflection of my thoughts, because it's all those are so important. I teach an 8-week class, and I would say it's pretty much that book. Give or take, but it's to the gist of it. Like, that's when I'm like, oh, this just people need to get this.
Yeah. And then keep doing it. Just like we all know, you can't just go to the gym once and expect to be fit. You do have to keep going and find something that works for you. Like, I'm going to go to Pilates tonight. I don't want to go to the super sweaty, high intensity, whatever. Some people, that's their jam. And I think, as we get older, depending on your age or gender or what, it's like our body needs different things, and to listen to it. Some days my body's like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to bed. And to really honor that, and then wake up the next day. And sometimes maybe you need to push yourself, like, nope, we're going to go for this walk. We're going to feel better afterwards. And we all know we feel better after a walk, whether we're going fast or slow. So I think for me too, success, as you were speaking, it's what came to me when you asked that question is peace, and that peace of mind of, you know, I'm proud of myself. I'm showing up, and sometimes showing up is showing up and, you know, like Shavasana and yoga. I'm only doing Shavasana. I'm going to show up and do Shavasana for 10 minutes. And that was my workout today because I achieved inner peace. I had the relaxation. I lowered my cortisol levels. But I think too, and we can focus on why are you even doing this? Because so many people tell me the things they want to do. And I think, okay, great. So like I said, like, why do you want to write the book? Why do you want to leave the job? Why do you want to get married? And I'm always just with no judgment, but listening to what people say and allowing them to hear the lies that they tell themselves, allowing themselves to experience the truth, allowing themselves to say, wait, I guess I actually don't want that thing. It's like, great. Let's explore what you do want. And again, to go off script and to block out what everybody else thinks, or, you know, you hear a lot of what you should be doing, but I think success to me is being able to connect, whether it's someone I've known forever or connect with someone that I've just met. That's success. For me though, it's that peace of mind of, and sometimes, I mean, especially recently, I went through a really hard time this past year in many different ways, personally and professionally, and not even stuck, but just felt so uncomfortable and so sad at times, but just working my way through it step by step, and then having, you know, like, okay, I'm past this, but then like experiencing a setback, like, okay, I have more work to do here. But I think being in the embracing of the discomfort, and then when you come out of that, just like a hard swim practice or workout, and the satisfaction that you feel, and you look back, and then it's, I think, doing more things where you can look back and say, wow, after that, I can do anything. And that is building that inner musculature. And then again, becoming the person who you're untouchable, and you get to be, have, and do really whatever you get to choose. You're in the driver's seat rather than just in the back, like, turn there. Like, why are you going this way? It's you're in full control. That's really powerful.
Oh, so powerful. What would you give advice to your 14? My daughter's, the youngest one's 14. What advice would you give your little 14-year-old self back then?
I would say you get to be more discerning with people and who you let into your life, who you give your energy to. Don't forget to give yourself the love that you so freely give to everybody else. Give yourself that, even again, if that's making that person mad, that person's judging you, that person doesn't like you. That's about them. That is not on you at all. And to really have the confidence to live a life that is true for you, whatever that means, and being courageous enough to make decisions that go against the status quo. Might feel lonely at times, but again, that's your freedom. For me, my number one value is freedom. So I think you're never too young to get really clear on what you value: freedom, authenticity, family, free time, whatever, and start asking our kids, what do you really value? If they might say, well, what do you mean? And then giving an example. For me, I really value integrity, doing what you say you're going to do, treating people with kindness and respect. And I think the more then that we can cultivate those inner characteristics and really lean into our values and make decisions from that place. People always say, follow your heart. I used to say that. Now I say, follow your values. You follow your value, your heart. Listen, my heart has got me involved with some really toxic men. But my heart, but I love him. I'm like, girl, no. If I follow my values, I'm like, I don't care how hot he is or how, it's like, we're going this way,
Oh
not
my
in alignment
gosh.
with our values.
Totally. You just struck a chord in me, by the way. So me, as my 20s and 30, before I met Richard, it was that I wasn't following my values. And so now I see, you just hit me, why that's one of the weeks in my class. It's core values for kids to learn why they make the decisions they do. I am so, that's why, because I didn't follow my core values, choosing the boyfriends or what. It wasn't that. And now I am so adamant about Paige, like she's 17, the boys are starting to come around. and I see who she picks. I see the friends she picks. She knows her values. It's so clear. Like there's no doubt. It is the most amazing thing. Someone would ask her to go to a party. There's not even an ounce. No, she knows she wouldn't want to go there. She won't be around that. She doesn't get caught up in being popular. She doesn't get caught up in any of that because she knows her values. When it's time for family day and someone asked her to do something that sounded so fun, no, I'm going with my family. It's family's one of your values page. That's why it's so easy to answer. But knowing your values, now that you just shine the light on that, and why I find that so important in these kids, it's because of me. It's because it's all this, all the little things that we were gifted to when we thought they were bad growing up. And we could sit there and I could write my story and everyone like, you did that? Like, but I'm so glad. I'm so thankful, right? It just brings you to this place of like, gosh, thank God, because now I am able to share that and understand the importance of, knowing your values or your worth. I have 2 girls. It's so important to have that worthiness, and understanding you don't, be strong, know who you are, love yourself. We just say, I love you too. I mean, when's the last time, you ask someone when the last time they said, I love you to themselves in the mirror or just out loud, they're like, the room goes quiet.
Yes, which is sad. And it's interesting because when I was going through this really stormy season recently, it's interesting. I found myself saying to myself all the time out loud, I love you. I love you, which feels weird and foreign at first. But I think I was from the outside meta view looking at what I was going through. And it's just like, I love you. But I really think that, and then I was making decisions from that, whether it's working with certain coaches or specialists to help me through that time. And even choices of, as you're talking, I think another thing I would say to especially young girls and women and to all of us, and something I said to myself recently, I'm 45 and just working through this, the difference between being nice and being kind. And I saw something really funny on some social media about that in terms of East Coast, West Coast. And for instance, West Coast, they said West Coast, nice, but not kind. For instance, oh, I'm so sorry that you're going through that, but like not offering to help you in any way.
Right.
Whereas East Coast is like, you got a flat tire. You're a freaking idiot. What are you thinking? You're so dumb. Here, move away. I'm going to change your tire. Let me call my people. I'll take care of it. And that's not really nice, but kind. So I've been doing that with people recently because I was allowing myself to be used, abused, taken advantage of. I take full responsibility of that rather than being like, that person used me. Okay, but you allowed it. When I say that kindly, not nicely, but kindly to myself. And so now with girls, I think, and I was raised in the Midwest, whereas I still hear it, oh, be nice. Oh, be nice. And I'm leaning more into kindness. And so I am kind when I say, no, I'm not willing to do this gig for free, and to be more concerned with being kind to myself first, rather than being this martyr or like, oh, I'm helping so many people. I'm like, but you're exhausted and resentful and grumpy because of it. So instead, no, thank you. Or yes, I'd love to do your event. Here's my rate. Or no, I'm not interested in partnering, and being okay with, they might not like you, or they might make you feel bad, or they might make a rude comment, and being okay with that. Because again, you get home and you say to yourself, like, I love you, like, good job, or good job standing up to the bully, good job leaving the toxic situation. And so exercising more kindness, which again, that's the full spirit workout.
Right. We're coming to the end. It goes by so fast when I
It
get so
goes
excited.
fast. I know.
But I get like, oh my gosh, I get so excited when I meet you, someone like you. I'm like, what's something we didn't cover all the things on the book, and what would be something that you really feel like is important that we didn't touch? I mean, there's so many things. I wrote down every chapter.
Oh, you're the best.
What do you feel?
A quote of mine that went viral on social media, which means it resonated with a lot of people deeply. And it was, being okay if it happens and okay if it doesn't is a very powerful place to be. And I think that resonated because, again, we all want that thing. And for me, I was talking about this book deal and having, two or three where it was just like, we thought, my agent and I thought it was a done deal, huge opportunity. And it fell through at the 11th hour for whatever reason. And one day I was really upset, and I was in my New York apartment, and I was just, had some choice words for God. Like, what the hell? My angel's like, I'm doing all of this for you. If like, why would you have me go all through all this if we're not going to like get the book deal and get this book out into the world? And I was like, oh, and so I, went to my favorite restaurant and again, sat and just listened to the guidance to get back, because I just had some words for God and the angels. And that's when I heard, being okay if it happens and okay if it doesn't is a very powerful place to be. And really, instead of it just being words, really feeling that in my soul. And it's like, you know what, if I get this book deal, great. If I don't, great. Whatever. I've got a full life. I don't really have time to write this, whatever. And it was within a week that I got the call from my agent and was on the phone with my publisher at Georgia from New World Library. And it really can and does happen that fast when you are in that place of complete surrender and really being like, my life is full and great with or without this thing, this opportunity, this job, this person. And then the universe is like, okay, to her, it's time, she's ready. It's kind of that quote where it's like, you're ready for a relationship when you're really, really happy being single. Kind of the same thing. So however anybody takes that to your particular situation, please exercise that, because the results are extraordinary when we're in that place.
Yes, that reminds me of when your mom had been trying to get pregnant forever. And that was where she finally gave up, right? 8 years trying to get pregnant, right?
Yes. And gave it up to God, to a woman of faith, to a higher power, and to then have a healthy boy and girl in a year and a half after 8 years of nothing. And doctors telling you, if you want to be a mom, you have to adopt. I mean, hello, that's like the whole reason I'm even alive.
Right.
That stuff works.
Right. I know sometimes when I hear stories like that and all the magic moments in life, we take it so seriously, and to realize that everything is always perfect. It's all for us. There's nothing to us. We're not the victim. We are all victors, and we're all one. We're all God. We're all love. And if you can come from that place in any situation and just trust and surrender, those are my two favorite words, by the way.
Yeah.
Trust and surrender, and realize that it is always, like we said in the beginning, everything is always being provided. Everything is always but to be in that moment, I know people are listening going, oh, easy for you to say, or, right now, my life sucks, or this is really hard.
Hey, we've both been there. I have been there, and I have been there recently, and where it's just like, I don't even want to be here. And it's never about like the outside either. There's inner turmoil. That's why you see some of the most gorgeous, rich, famous, wealthy people die by suicide. So we've all been there. I think that's why we can speak so openly about it, because we've been there. And that's what Courtney said, who wrote the foreword for my book. She said, Kate meets you where you are. And the reason she knows where you are is because she's been there.
Right.
Hello.
Totally. Oh my gosh, exactly. And I really know that, when you do speak that way and you do tell people, and I try and, help people that are, have lost a job, or, that they start getting depressed. I'm like, it's all perfect. Oh, really? Yes, it is. It is perfect. I've been there, and now I'm fine. I've gone through that, and look what happens. And as a mom, I do the same thing. I got a bad grade. There's a reason for it. What is that? What's the lesson in it?
Yeah.
We're all taking we take it all. So when you realize that God, there's a plan, and it's all in this beautiful plan of your life that you've had in this very short amount of time. And when you take away and realize all the fear and all the you think is, the wrong and the bad, and you turn that perspective around, and it's all perspective. Everything is perspective. And if you want to have that perspective and be depressed and sad and angry and anxiety, then that's how you're looking at it. But if you can change it, and that's all practice and, life experience, but to look at it like, that's interesting. I wonder why that happened. What am I learning from that? And what is the gift? Because everything is a gift, because it's going to propel me in the next situation. When I get to that place, I'm going to have, like you said earlier, I did that. Well, if I did that, then I can do that. Right.
Exactly.
It's just
And
that ladder.
putting what if in front of things. So for me recently, it's what if the worst thing that ever happened to you is also the best thing that ever happened to you. Think about where you're going to go from there with that mentality and perspective versus the woe is me victim. Because you're at that crossroads, and it's actually easier to go the victim route,
Right.
to ain't it awful, woe is me. It's more empowering though to choose. I'm like, and I see how it was the best thing that ever happened for me, because it made me change to be even better. And when something happens for you that makes you even better, what a gift. Does it suck going through that? Yes, it absolutely does. But when you get to the other side and you can look back, and then you talk about confidence, it's like, wow, I could have really sunk my own ship there, but instead I went this way. You're untouchable. You're unstoppable. Brava.
Right. Last week we were at a pageant, and Presley, the little one, had an interview, and she came out and she didn't know.
Sorry, keep talking. I have to run to the restroom so bad. We can edit this out, but keep talking. I'll be right back.
Yes, no worries.
Keep talking.
Okay.
I'll
pause it. So anyway, Presley was at an interview. She comes out, and usually they're like, "Oh, it was so good," and I came prepared. And she came out, and I had this kind of like a blank look on her face. And I go, "Huh." So she says, "Mom, they asked me this question on what the letters meant of each, letter of the pageant. And we had talked about it the night before." And she's like, "Oh, Mom, they're not going to ask that question, right? They just ask what's the most important letter." I'm like, "How do you know?" She's like, "Well, so-and-so told me." I said, "Okay, but you always come more prepared, right?"
Yeah.
So the lesson so I said, "There's a lesson in that, right? What is it?" She's like, "I'm going to be over prepared, and I'm going to realize that I have to be very detailed," because she's kind of brushes over things, her personality. And so, when you say that, it's like, yeah, you have to like understand that everything in life, it was for a reason. She needed that wake up call, because now it's going to propel her next in November. She's going to be so dialed in on her interview.
Exactly.
And I don't look at anything as failure. It's like, or let's go out and fail. I mean, like I remember, what's her name that invented Spanx?
Oh,
Her dad,
Sarah Blakely.
Sarah Blakely. Her dad would always say at the dinner table, what'd you fail today? Did you go fail? Like he encourages that. And I love that, because it's all about like, those are the most amazing growth moments of your life. Those are the moments that you're going to take it to the next level. It's like that. If I did that, I can do that. So anyway, we can sit here all day and talk. And
I know, I love
meeting
this.
you.
I love this. We have to connect in person since we're so-called neighbors. And I could talk to you all day too. And it just makes me realize these are my favorite things to talk about. And I wish we talked about this more rather than all of the other stuff that people talk about, or we spend so much time like, that person did this, or why did this happen? Or you hear a lot of those conversations. And I think it's healthy to get that stuff out. But I think the more that we can talk about, inner fitness and making this more mainstream rather than just exercising our physical muscles, which is certainly important, but really exercising those inner muscles, and just knowing the person that we can become doing it, and then just how we can extend that out to everyone, and that we'd all be a lot happier by practicing these principles. So it is a choice, but I just appreciate you having me. And I'm so happy the book resonated with you, and we'll have to keep the conversation going in our own way. And I love that we're starting with the kids, and to talk to kids about these concepts.
Yes. So important. That's where my heart is for sure. Anyway, Thank you, Kate. I loved it.
I loved it too. Thank you so much.
We'll be forever soul sisters.
Indeed,
that
my friend.
Before I push my ending, but it's that someone said to me, I recognized your soul. Someone texted me on Instagram the other day, and I said, "Oh, I love that." It was so true, because when you meet somebody, and the fulfillment that this podcast does for me is when I meet people like you, it is a recognition of a soul. Like I do recognize your soul, and I recognized it in the book before I even met you on Zoom. But it is that recognition, and it's, like when you're in life and you're out meeting people and you have that little like, that I feel that. I feel her, and
I love that so much. And it just reminds me of why I do the work that I do. And for anyone listening and you think, oh, why should I do this art project, or why should I do this? It's even if it's one person, and to have that soul recognition for both you and the other person, and that somebody had an aha moment or some sort of growth, or felt seen and heard and acknowledged in your presence or by your work, it's worth it. And to just do that thing that your soul is calling you to do. And it matters. And thank you for that reminder.
yeah. Oh, you're so welcome. So go buy the book, The Full Spirit Workout, and you can get on Instagram. Your website is kateeckman.tv, and your Instagram is Kate Eckman, right?
Yep.
Just your name.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day.
You too.